Hello.
Yeah,
How are you doing?
feeling very good actually. It's been a week since lunch, and because I'm going to that meditation thing, but it's been a week of reflecting and kind of imagining next year, and um, yeah, still there are like a lot of parts that is trying to get sorted out because I have like we talk like about the community, how to build the community, and like it's that excites me and keep thinking about it. I'm like, wow, that's so good. And then with my founder group, we just had a conversation how to make it larger,
Mm.
bring more people and my vision for it, and everyone was aligned. So I'm just excited for that. We had the conversation with the B2B angle like earlier in this morning.
Yeah.
So there's so much that I was very nervous a couple days ago again because I'm like, oh, now the app is out. How can we distribute the traction, all of the metrics that we need to measure? And now things are getting sorted out, and I'm like, wow, exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. I went into this call and I was thinking the same thing. I was like, things feel really aligned at this specific moment. And the like feeling just the energy from building this community. And then exactly like you said, like having this call and starting to understand how we can also move into supporting organizations and businesses. There's a lot more clarity that came. It seems like every time we connect, there's more clarity, but especially after the launch and leading into this week, there's just like the path is becoming clear for our next steps because it was so much of like, let's get this app out. And that was where our focus was, which it has.
Yes, celebrating it.
Yay! So it's good that it's so great to have that easy transition to now looking at next steps. And it's because even as we were building this, we were already building in that foundation. And so this next step, the ease to it, there wasn't, even though I've like shared some of the like moments of being like, oh, what's next? I think we did so many things right that has set us up for now. This is just in like a really clear next steps.
Yeah, I think a lot of also with late, a lot of first of all, I think the most important part is our relationship. Like there is that trust and safety that okay, we tried it for last year, last few months. It was very good. We kind of learned how to work together, what is each other's strength, and build that trust. Um, and now we're like, okay, let's do it next year and build something together now that we know um, each other's way of working, how to co-create together and all of that.
Yeah.
So, and then so many other things. I feel like it's I'm ready.
Yeah, me too. And we had earlier yesterday, we started the conversation around really more detailed 2026 planning and what that's going to look like. And we had such a good conversation where just like we do here and just like we're trying to do with our community, we really took a step back. We took the time to reflect and celebrate on this past year. We named the things that we did. We completed a lot of things. We brought those things to a nice complete point. And we celebrated the wins together in that space before we jumped into what are the needs, like what are some of the things that we're going to need to work on this next year, what are these really specific milestones, knowing that we need to start making this sustainable, that we have money coming in and that it's sustainable for both you and I and our team and the company to grow, really grow and thrive. And then before, so we started with reflection, then we did some work where we actually kind of dreamed big of what our celebratory like next year would look like at this point to have a big celebration. What would we be celebrating? What could that look like? How would that feel? Like, what are the feelings that we want to be having at that moment? And that was just such a great way to lead into more of a structured planning because yeah, the any sort of like if you immediately I think if we immediately went into like these are the things we need to do next year in order to make money, it would have the stress would have been like here, but we came to it at such a grounded place that even when we did start talking about the money conversation and what we really need to get done, which is a lot, we have a lot of work we still need to do, right? Especially in this first quarter. And I think everyone probably feels that, but it didn't feel as overwhelming. And then we can also talk about like how we moved into the money part. But I think for me, that was that this week, like that really energized me to, and then coming off the call this morning on B2B stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think, I mean, something that I mean, in general, that's the nature of when we are anxious. I feel like, and in this case, the finances, it's a difficult conversation. I feel like I personally have so much stories around it.
Yeah.
You know,
Me
the
too.
scarcity of it and the fear of what if we run out. And some of them are not real. A lot of them are not real, but these are, there's so much stories behind it. But
Mm-hmm.
it generates anxiety and worry things when things are uncertain. I'm like, oh, this I'm working on this and it's not generating any income yet. Because I guess we tied our um yeah, I think it feels a little bit strange. But some of it is real. Like, hey, how much saving do we have? What is our
Yeah.
burn rate? How long can we go? And And I feel like when we get scared about things and we get anxious, we kind of get zoomed in, and it's like this child that is kind of really tries to figure out. And that exercise that we need to kind of zoom out and say, okay, let's just imagine like at the end of next year, what do we really want to have? Kind of gets us a little bit out of that scared state to really
Yeah.
see things as really are. Okay, this is what we're looking, and then looking at the money thing, it's like, okay, yes, there is a conversation that we need to have, see what are different ways. But when we are not as scared, we are much more creative. And I've seen this always like with clients. I'm like always so surprised at so many creative ways that get there while when we're scared, we're like, okay, this is I'm screwed. There's no other way, and there's nothing. So it always works to kind of get out of that stuck, uh, scared mindset for a moment. However, it helps to get outside it, and then now address that from a much more spacious space. And then we get to be creative and we get to co-create together because we're like, okay, we're in this together. We can come up with different ways to make this thing work.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing, like being able to do this together. I have recognized this year and actually using the app as well that I often well historically like a lot of the endeavors that I've taken on have been where I'm kind of the main person. Like I have to be the one like guiding all of it. And I haven't had that like equal partnership. And so going into this, I think there's still a little bit of that, like working from that story, that narrative that this is on me, I need to get this done. And it's been like working together and building, like you said, building that trust and that safety has taken away so much of that internal those internal thoughts and has allowed me to like start challenging that and like really trusting that I have a partner in this and it's not all, no one thing is going to fall all on either of us. And that kind of
Yeah.
came to like fruition too when we were in the conversation and we both imagined this time next year and just like the way that it was so aligned. Even we had like different specifics, but we sort of it's like we kind of finished each other's thoughts or like started each other's ideas. It was without talking about it beforehand. And that moment too is just there's just so many things about now having that partnership and knowing the strength in that and being feeling really secure in that strength.
Yeah. What do you think, uh, like reflecting on last year, helped us to build that trust and safety that now um, we can do this, create more
Mhm.
together? Because I feel like that's if that is shaky, it's so hard to co-create. If that
Absolutely.
trust doesn't exist,
Yeah.
I think it's so hard to co-create.
hmm hmm Yeah, I think I really do. There's so much about us being, and it's interesting because you do have to have some level of trust before you can be open, but we also let some of that, like we did it even when we weren't quite there yet, where there was some feelings of like, I know saying this out loud makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but it was met with such care. And I think that was something that we did really well in the beginning, even with Sarah as well. When she was part of the team, we all like we had this sense of agreement about that and knowing that it was important for us to get to a space where that trust was just there and it didn't feel as difficult. But we had to get kind of like we had to take the steps too. And then of
Mhm.
course, like a big part, like just knowing you and having met each other at such a um an important time in both of our lives and like having that experience together as like traveling together and living in a space near each other and being able to without any pressure of a company of having to grow and build and make a profit, we were just creating together. And so that's the other thing. When we give ourselves that space without those constraints, we were able to get closer and understand each other better. And not everyone has that on the before you get started, but I think there's still ways to embed that and build that into the process.
Yeah, that's such a good reflection. The reason that I ask is because I see a lot of solo founders, they're looking co-found. I think it's such an important conversation. It's
Yeah.
for people to, and there's no one way to do it. But yeah,
hmm
I think I I used to have this tendency to not share. And in a lot of workplaces, it's so hard to be
Yeah,
fully open, to be vulnerable
absolutely.
and say, hey, like I don't feel comfortable with this, or I don't trust this, or like deal with that. And I noticed that the more I have those feelings and keep them to myself and I don't share and communicate, that's a sign of there's not something is missing. There's not enough
Yeah.
trust and safety.
Mm.
And yeah, I can see how that has and I think some of it is just being intentional. Like we were very
Yeah,
intentional,
exactly.
not only on the things to do, like building things, but we were aware of the importance of this relationship and the safety and trust of it because I
hmm
was always thinking probably the product is gonna pivot so many times. That doesn't matter. What matters is us as founders and can we co-create together. And that for me, that was something that I was always trying to really be intentional. And see with
And
a
you
lot of.
did. It was you were the driver of a lot of that because even though like there is that intentionality of like yes I do feel like I want to be open in this space and I feel like there's this equal partnership that I have a space to be able to share, but you made sure that it was a core like that this was a thing we needed to focus on, and you didn't you had it be a part of all of our conversations, especially up front. And without that, it might have still happened, but it wouldn't have been so intentional, like you're saying.
Yes, yes. I think the main thing was, I mean, first of all, because I've seen a lot of it as
Yeah,
coach for founders,
absolutely.
uh, but also, yeah, I mean, in coaching we focus a lot on person and not the things to do, but then
Mhm.
as things get done, and I feel like a lot of people who are looking for co-founders, and that's this is naturally looking for someone who
Of course.
do things together, and can this person do this and that. And as even they do the trial of together, they're just much more focused on getting a
Who's
task
doing the
complete,
task? Yeah,
which is very important. But I
of
think
course.
while that is happening, the main intention of that trial is not that task. The main intention of that trial is the relationship,
Yeah,
uh, to create that and see if it's possible. And I think that intentionality. And I think it takes a level of openness to be able to go there and share. And different people have different level of comfort, but I feel like that was very important in our us being able to continue this partnership next year and building something bigger, being able to dream together.
yeah, absolutely. And I think when it comes to I did come into this a little bit more comfortable with being open about how I'm feeling and being vulnerable. And a lot of that I learned through, working in the mental health space, but so much more than that, really working within my nonprofit. And I've been a part of a lot of coming from the nonprofit space. I've been a part of a lot of boards of directors and organizations. And I've seen where like the conflict that arises when people don't have a really safe space to be able to voice that, because that just turns into like a resentment, and it's gonna, or it turns into like I'm checking out, I don't want to be a part of this, without having any space for that. And so as I was building my nonprofit, just having starting from a place of, not only because we're a mental health nonprofit, and that has to, that is something that needs to show up everywhere, but really coming from a place of that we're people first, just like you said, that we are humans navigating a lot and while trying to run an organization. And so always that having okay, I guess it's exciting, but am I doing something to make fireworks?
I think,
Yeah. And so I'll use my hands so much to talk. I'm gonna hold them in my lap for a minute. I really do think having a space for being human is so important across the board, whether it's with a partnership or with your teams or in relationships. And so for me, I understand that's a hard thing to like to be vulnerable is very difficult. And so I did have some of that already, like coming into this. I had a lot of that, but it's not it is something you have to work on. And, the more you can really understand how you're feeling, I think the easier or the less complicated it is to share. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's something about the vulnerability and difficulty of it. I think it's if it's easy, it's not vulnerable. Probably that
Yeah.
has become comfortable. It it is supposed to be outside. That's how I always tell myself. It's supposed to be outside my
Mhm.
comfort zone. That's why
Yeah.
as I want to share this, something it feels like so hard, and I kind of want to throw
Mm.
up in my mouth, and I'm like,
Hmm.
okay, this is really
This is,
both courageous and vulnerable. Otherwise, yes, maybe it was vulnerable for me a few years ago, but now I'm very comfortable with that.
yeah. Well, and I
And
think also, yeah,
I
go ahead.
just want to say, and I had many of those moments in
Yeah.
conversations that we had that I was
Yeah.
like, oh, this feels not as comfortable, but let's talk about it.
But and then on the same end of like, I there were a few times where I was just like, I'm feeling something. I don't exactly know what it is, but I'm having a reaction to what we're talking about, and it just like, can we just pause and have the space to explore that together? Those
Mm.
moments for me really, because it's like I didn't necessarily know what I was feeling. I just knew something was like conflicted inside of me that needed to come out. And it would, and so many times I can look back on roles that I played and when I was like working in teams where I just like pushed that aside and I just like, stayed quiet. And here, even though like I was so used to that reaction being now just like, just don't worry about that. I was like, say something, say, it was like I knew I needed to say something, and it was because of like all the ways that we made sure that when that uncomfortable moment happened, that's when you have to move through it. You can't just avoid it.
Yeah, that's so cool that you have this intuitive, and you are in touch with yourself and feelings and what is coming up, that you sense it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. I think that's such a powerful signal that you can get to listen to.
Yeah, no, I haven't really thought about it like that, but yeah, you're right. You're right. And that's not to say it's always based in fact. Like sometimes I'm like, I'm having a weird reaction to it. Oftentimes it'll come down to it was a reaction not based in my own personal stuff or based in a misunderstanding or like things like that. I just know I need to clear it. And sometimes it does get to a place where it's like, that was like there was something in sort of like incongruent, not quite lining up there. And then it like that really takes things to the next level.
Yeah, makes sense. I mean, I think all of us have so much. It can come up from different places, but it's important
Absolutely.
to pause and check in and kind of have that. Yeah, it's just, I don't know what is the word, but get more feel 100% yes and aligned as we go through. Otherwise, we're just keeping something, hiding something, or
Yeah.
the
And
space is
I
not
think,
comfortable enough for us to share
yeah.
that. I need pause.
And not even 100% like we needed to be on the same page, but 100% heard.
Mhm.
And that I think is so important. Like when people feel heard in a way where it's not just like, yeah, you get to talk, but you don't get a voice really. It like really does make a shift things. Because there were some times, like I said, where I was like, oh, I didn't actually like my concern was I was thinking something else. My concern wasn't really aligned what we were talking about, but I felt so heard and I was able to feel really good moving forward. And I think that's something to say for like doing practices where you do start to understand how it feels in your body because our bodies can tell us a lot. And so that's why like I was like I feel something in my body. And it's not a normal it's normally it's an uncomfortable feeling. And so but yeah, that's also like working with you having the space to say something feels off. Can we just have a second without needing to have it all figured out is also like being able to be that person for other people is also a really definitely a superpower and having that giving that space to people.
Yeah, I think if the space needs to be safe enough for us to be able to have that. And if we are not able to do it, it means still there's work to be done on both sides.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking on that. For me, that intuitive hit is mostly when there is a good idea or something. I get some kind of feeling in my body, like it's like a combination of goosebump and something else.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, this one is good. And I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. And both in coaching, when someone is sharing that is something that is real, or I know I need to dive into this, for
Yeah.
a second, I something happens. I'm like, okay, there, and it's too woo-woo. I don't know where it's coming from, but same thing. Like when I'm thinking about like the next step ideas and like the things that kind of I feel it in my body. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
this is the real one.
Yep.
So that's what, and same thing. I'm not attached to it, but it's kind of at least is a signal that I'm like, okay, let's look into this. There is
Move in that
something.
direction. Yeah.
Yeah,
Something's there. Yeah. 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 I love that. That's such a exciting feeling, I think. And that I can, it always like brings so much more energy to whatever it is that's happening too.
yeah. In coaching, sometimes I when that happens. I think it's kind of my ego that I'm like, yes, I'm having some magical power that I can feel the things that are like,
Yeah.
oh, this was good. Like, hey, but there is, I think it's same as intuition, which is,
Yeah.
again, there is something to it that somewhere deep inside we're like, okay, we need to
Yeah.
look into this,
Yeah.
and it's cool.
Yeah. Yeah.